Hello and welcome to the Review of Champions again. Today we are going to talk about episode 2 of season 2 of The Mandalorian, streaming now on Disney+. With me are ArArArchStanton, Maximura, and ShadowBiz. And I am Sakaar's Grandmaster. Before we begin, I would like to invite anyone to join us on Sakaar. To become a member, join the conversation, and who knows, join us on the podcast or review. Links will be down below in the description. That being said, let's start reviewing. Episode 2 is called The Passenger. It starts with Mando picking up a passenger at Tatooine with the request to bring this passenger to a nearby system where he can get more information on where other Mandalorians are. The trip is not going smoothly. He ends up on a planet where he has a little adventure. And basically that's the episode, how it goes. Does anyone want to start with what he thought about the episode?
I don't. Yeah, you know what? I'm just. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it was pretty much a filler episode. Like, to be honest, kind of like an in-between episode, because like all he was doing was just trying to find another Mandalorian, and he had to pretty much give a ride to a what was it? A frog he called it, or a toad or something?
Frog lady.
He said like, "I don't speak frog" at one point or something.
Yeah. On Twitter, the passenger was called a frog lady for the most part. So I think we should go with that.
Yeah, and ever like since I thought about Red Dead Redemption like from last time, I just saw it as like a part of the campaign. And again, it's like drop off the hostage or something, like drop off the person, and also like fight the cave monster. But I still liked it. It definitely had it was a pretty funny episode too. Like how can you not just adore Baby Yoda from eating those kind of like the frog eggs every single time? Like, don't do that. No. Should have got a spanking in my opinion, but
it was simultaneously cute and gross.
Yeah. I was laughing also all the time about whenever he snagged neck and the last second of the episode was hilarious.
The last
in terms of like, but in terms of like adding to the story, it didn't really add that much. Like I guess it kind of expanded the Star Wars universe in general. You got to see a different planet, a different alien, a frog alien, I guess. Some spider monsters. But yeah, who wants to go next?
I hate spiders, man. I hate spiders. My reaction once all that started happening, once they turned around, my overall reaction for the whole episode was, dude, that was freaky as hell. Like, once they turned around and you saw Baby Yoda go over there and start opening up the pod, I was like, that's really kind of really gross. And then you see all the other ones start moving, and I was like, all I could think of was Xenomorphs, like the first Alien when they broke down in there and they see all those little egg pods. That's the only thing I was thinking. And then it wasn't all that different. Like these spider things started coming out, and then slightly bigger ones. And the first time you saw slightly bigger ones, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna end well. And then they kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And dude, I was freaked out the whole time. I hate spiders. I have ducked and rolled out of my own bedroom because there was a spider on the ceiling over my door. I hate them. This episode freaked me out. It really did. That's all I got for now. Go ahead.
Max?
There was actually a value to those spiders. If you look at the original scripting for the time on Dagobah from the original series, the original trilogy, there was a plan to have the white knobby spiders come out, and those were actually some sort of long-term variation on a plant life that turned into a spider and then planted root again. But it looks like from the design of these spiders, they were kind of doing an homage to the concept art for those spiders from the original plans for Dagobah.
Mm-hmm. Well, does anyone know who directed the episode?
Yeah. Peyton Reed, apparently.
I thought it was funny because it started off with a big ant in the cantina playing the card game with the tech woman, and of course you had the spiders coming out, and they gave this to the guy who directed Ant-Man. I mean, he's like Disney's bug guy. If they have to have some bugs crawling around on screen, they give it to Peyton Reed. He knows what to do. So
that's an interesting parallel.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny to me. But do we think this episode worked within the Star Wars universe?
I really enjoyed it, but if like kind of my journey through it, there were a couple of things. I don't think many people have been to Hollywood Studios yet, or out to Disneyland to see the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge exhibit. But the bar they go into, it really reminded me that. I've been out there a couple of times, and it just like when they walked in there, I was like, oh, I feel like I've been there. So I had kind of had this connection to it, which is interesting. The bar really looks like Oga's Cantina from Hollywood Studios, which I thought was kind of cool. I actually got a little bit like attached to it. Like when this frog lady like started talking about saving her eggs, and you saw the canister with her eggs, and they were trying to like rescue them and move them around, and you saw Baby Yoda. I felt bad for her. I was like, oh well, bad and hopeful for her simultaneously, which I thought was interesting because she didn't even really use any words, but I still felt her plight. So I thought that was good. Actually, I thought that worked really well. The rest of the episode obviously was just a complete horror show in a good sense for me. It was supposed to be a horror show of just this vile, disgusting, like, get away from the spiders thing. And I felt real tension. I didn't really know how they were getting out of that. So I was kind of, like, gripped to my seat personally, like, wondering how in the heck they were going to get out of this. So I for me, it worked on all those levels. I thought it worked. I don't know who else has got anything, though. Max, I think you wanted to...
Yeah, there were a couple of things. One of the pilots from the X-Wings. One of the X-Wing pilots was David Filoni, which was one of the directors from the animated series, I believe. And I think he's also involved in some of the stuff going on with Mandalorian, or at least some of the planning on that. So that's an interesting little tie there. But the thing I was really wondering about from that was the yellow X-Wings that they had going on. Were those descendant from the Gold Squadron or the Yellow Squadron? If so, like, there might be a history behind them that could come into it. The Spider Planet itself, I think, does a really good job of reminding you that despite the trilogies being about, like, the impacts of the massive galactic Senate, that the majority of the universe is still very untamed in a lot of ways. And I think it does a good job of reminding you that even the most amazing person in there can be subject to death in a random location where nobody will ever know about it. And I think it also does a great job of displaying the fickleness of the Star Wars community, where the moment it wasn't about a major guy, it was a problem because it's too little. Whereas when it was including Boba, it was a problem because it was just fan service. So, like, there's no actual happy point for the Star Wars fandom, no matter what they do. I don't know how you react to that problem.
Yeah, I think that's a conclusion you can draw of all that Disney has put out for Star Wars, that the fandom is not easy to please. I mean, I won't call Disney Star Wars peak Star Wars, but it's not that bad as it sometimes is made out to be, in my view, at least. I must say I wasn't really keen on this episode. I saw it twice now, just now again, and I think it's one of the weaker episodes in The Mandalorian until now. But I still very much enjoyed it. I mean, the horror show for Arch, I really enjoyed that sequence. It was really fun. And yeah, those X-Wings, that was for me the highlight of the episode, where they say, okay, you switch to channel 2, and then you see all of a sudden those X-Wings open up, okay, now it's going down now, overall I really enjoyed it, despite it not being the strongest episode of the lot.
So I was actually curious from Wellibers and Biz. I know you weren't super into it, and Biz, you mentioned it was kind of like a filler episode. I almost see the whole show as nothing but filler episodes, and that's kind of... I sort of mentioned that last week, where they almost always have the main plot in the background, and it's rare that it becomes the main point. But like I don't know, how do you guys feel about that, or what left this one a little bit different for you guys?
Well, in this case, it was, in the first season, you see Mando, he finds the child. He actually doesn't really know what to do with it, so he goes on with his life until he gets called back to, what's the planet's name? Max, you probably know this, where they had the fight with Moff Gideon and everything. But in the second,
it's not going to come to me right now specifically because you said I was going to know it for sure.
Oh well, then I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
but at least there was some sense of Mando is trying to do his own life and trying to dump the child. Now he has this mission. So basically now you have more like the feel that he really has to have. There has to be a narrative to bring the child to where he belongs. And in the beginning of the episode, you get to feel, okay, he will fly to that planet. He will probably there will be some trouble on that planet before he gets the information. But it goes a total different direction, and the direction that it takes in this episode doesn't really add to the story at all. At least it calls back a little bit to that episode we were talking about last week when Mando was on the prison ship, where he abducted, as they say, a prisoner, and he left 3 others there to be imprisoned. But it doesn't drive the story forward, in my view. What they did, it was really like, okay, we are writing this season. We're short 1 episode. That's how it feels to me. Where can we fill something up? You know what? The travel from Tatooine to the other planet, we can add something there. It really feels like that to me. Biz? Sorry.
Oh, by the way, I just looked it up. The planet is called Navarro.
Navarro, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew that. I was the first to say Navarro.
Anyway, yeah, like I pretty much agree with you, Grandmaster. I mean, did it really add much to the story at all? I mean, to where the Mandalorian is going, like in terms of he's trying to get Baby Yoda back to his people. Yeah, there was not much to it. It was like kind of like a side adventure, like like kind of like a pit stop on this episode, and then it'll probably like things will start moving again. Obviously, like next episode they'll get to what planet are they going to? Like, I'm really bad with this. The planet's like.
Right now he's just trying to get to other Mandalorians who he think will help him on his quest to get Baby Yoda to his species, and I don't think he knows where he's going at this point. My take on the whole thing sort of is that everything is going to feel like a side adventure. I think this show is more about the exploration and him showing up in places you wouldn't expect and encountering things you just don't expect every single episode, rather than being all about main storyline all the time. It's a weird sort of structure. It's an unusual sort of structure, I should say, not weird.
No, actually it's not. It feels a lot like, and now I'm gonna curse in the church, as we say in the Netherlands. It really feels a lot like Star Trek.
Right, where every episode is about some main plot.
Yeah, where you have a lot of episodes that have some value, but it's not like they drive overall narrative forward all the time. Right. So it actually feels a lot like Star Trek. But to me, this was a bit worse than all those episodes in season 1. Okay. If you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Especially if they did this like 2 or 3 episodes into this season, I think it would have been better, because you get this idea of, okay, he sets out on his quest. He just got started, basically. And then all of a sudden in episode 2, they already toss him literally in an ice pit, and he spends there for the whole episode, which is, I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but yeah, it annoyed me a little bit.
Yeah, in defense of the filler argument for it, I feel like the main reason for that is because it comes off a little cookie cutter. Like they sat down in the boardroom and said, "All right, it's episode 2. We're gonna have him in a terrifying but escapable situation dealing with death in the outer regions." So how are we gonna do that? They could have done that through an air leak in the ship. They could have done that through the ice cave. They could have done that through 1,000 different reasons that all would have been sort of the exact same cookie cutter response. Guy in space deals with a problem, survives through near death, which I know is going to be most of the story in a lot of ways, but this one felt particularly disjointed from any ongoing story. So it felt the most version of that episode that you could feel like that.
Am I the only one who wants that? I like that. I like that it has nothing to do with the main plot.
I don't
Am I the
hate
only
it.
one?
I don't
Yep.
hate it, but it's just, it would have been better if it was a little bit further into the season, where you have like, okay, we need. It's okay to have a little break from the main plot, but yeah. That's why it felt a bit like, okay, we are short. We wrote the season. We are short one episode. What do we do? Well, we fill it up with uh, a problem.
You know why I like it? Is because it feels like a day in the life of. And sometimes you just encounter things that don't really matter to your overall life. Like, but they're still interesting occurrences. Like, I'm sure you have like a ton of stories that you had some funny incident that happened to you one day, and it doesn't really matter in the overall scheme of your life, but it was still like a noteworthy story in your life. And I view those things like that. So I view this show like that overall. That it's just it's a series of things that were interesting that happened to this guy. Some of them apply to his life, to his overall life. Some of them don't. But I just think it's interesting to be on this journey with him. I guess that's why I love this kind of stuff.
I actually think that, yes, they needed that episode. It felt like it was a fill-in for what they were looking for. I think they needed to have that there are threats that aren't just the main threats in the cosmos. I feel like all they did was come up with that concept and then fill it in with something. I don't know. It felt like there could have been a way to deliver that concept while making it feel a little more together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Overall, I don't think it was a bad episode.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable enough. I mean, like I said, it's a lot like Star Trek, and every once in a while you have that starship is shot to pieces or broken down, and they have to fix it in an episode. And it also drives nowhere. Doesn't further the narrative. So yeah. So Star Trek has going Star Wars, and Star Wars is going Star Trek. Interesting.
I think my problem with the episode is that it feels like a mergence of 2 Firefly episodes. There's one where the ship breaks down, and there's another one where they try to evade pursuit by a false lawman who's trying to get them to pull over, and they fly through ice caverns and stuff to try to get away from them. So, like, it felt like those 2 episodes were pieced together, and that's what they came up with to not actually be those 2 episodes.
Although it's definitely not as good as Firefly.
It would be hard to keep up with Firefly. That show needs brought back.
True. But yeah, the interesting thing that in that episode is that kind of dropped off for me when was that part, like near the beginning, where those how do I describe them? I don't know, no good hooligans, like right at the start of the episode where it was just like speeding through, and then they held the line out, and he tripped over it. So yeah, that part was pretty cool to me. And then like had that combat fight, and then yeah, the bad guy had Baby Yoda hostage, and then it was pretty cool. Like, yeah, you're not going to get away from this. Like everyone knew that he wasn't going to get away from Mando, and then and then the what's it called? The jetpack comes back. I'm like, that's pretty sick.
He dropped the guy from who knows how high in the air.
yeah, exactly.
That is pretty vicious.
Yeah, he did some
great move.
He did some serious killing in there,
I liked how he survived it. Like his instant, like when he got taken off the bike, he immediately was like flipping through the air and used his jetpack to guide himself. That was amazing. Yeah.
That landing was 9.6 from the Romanian jury.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's the beginning of the episode was actually quite promising. And they just needed to fill it up for the rest. I think that's why I think Biz is saying it's a filler episode, because you have the feeling we get the rest of the episode next week in episode 3, actually.
Although maybe there is a reason that we're taking this kind of like detour, because obviously we're going to see the frog race again next week because we're going to see her husband. Maybe it plays into the larger story of the Mandalorian. Maybe they'll need the frogs as allies in the future or something.
Yeah,
that's possible too.
That's possible.
maybe at the end of the season we say episode 2 was totally brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, there is one thing I want to mention though. This is to Max's earlier point where we saw the X-wing pilots as like you said, Dave Filoni, right? We have seen that before in the episode where we rescued where Mando and that crew rescued the Twi'lek. Like those X-wing pilots were also had Dave Filoni. I think that Asian director, and then there might have been someone else, but like all to do with the like creation of Star Wars, like the directors or creators or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I am curious if they're going to do something with that being a survivor of the Yellow Squadron. I misspoke earlier when I said Gold Squadron. That was a Y-Wing squadron, so the X-Wings wouldn't make any sense there. But the Yellow Squadron survivor thing could be interesting because they could have ties. That group was more or less wiped out by a fight with Vader a long time ago. So it would be like the few remaining ships when Luke crashed his ship into Vader's in order to stop him from taking out the entire fleet. Just has a bit of history tied to it that could be very interesting.
Yeah, and it also shows the rebel forces being integrated into the defense force of the Republic, the New Republic, I should say. So that was also a nod to that. Well, if there's anyone who wants to start with his own rating.
Yeah, I'd say it's a tough one. I'd say 6.5 out of 10. I mean, like, it was cool seeing the larger Star Wars universe. Baby Yoda is always funny, and also that there were some other like comical moments, like for example with that lady. So yeah, like it was like, what did she say? Like, I'm a good judge of character, but she only knew that frog for like 2 seconds. Yeah, exactly.
She kept misleading him. Oh yeah, I'll vouch for him with my life. Oh, I've known him for 10 minutes after he's already committed to doing it. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Max, what would you say?
Well, I actually think that this might be a little like rating a trilogy when you've only seen the first movie of it. I think knowing that it's a multi-part episode, it's a little difficult to give it. And like the Oscars, I think the highest point comes from the final film. So I don't know. I'm going to have to lean towards rating it a little low right now with the addendum that I might bump it up later depending on how the story finishes out. I'm going to go 6 out of 10 right now.
Arch?
I don't do numbers, but I feel like I enjoyed it a lot more than you guys. I love the horror elements of it. I love the Baby Yoda elements of it. I love that I couldn't quite figure out whether I thought it was cute that Baby Yoda was eating eggs or that it was really disturbing. given how much I was rooting for this lady to get her eggs on this planet. Yeah, but it was crazy. But I absolutely love the whole spider thing and the build up of it. Like I said, I don't do numbers, so I'm gonna give it Xenomorph out of the planet Hoth from Return of the Jedi. So, or Empire Strikes Back. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I will join Max and this about 6.5 out of 10. Maybe I will indeed crank it up if it turns out to be brilliant at the end of the season, but I don't have really much hope for it. Okay, that concludes our review of episode 2 of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Join us for more next week. Bye.